Hello everyone and welcome to the first in a series of videos called Is It Worth It? These videos are going to be reviews of indie games that seek to answer the question of whether or not the game in question is worth its price. If you already know what my rules are to this series or you just simply don't care, you can skip to this time in order to start the review. Games will be put into one of four categories: not worth buying, wait for a sale, worth it, and worth more than its price. Games will be graded into one of these four categories based on the quality of the content given, the quantity of the content given, the price in question, and a bit of my own personal enjoyment. With that being said, here are some ground rules. Number 1. I'm only going to give this treatment to indie games or games from smaller game companies. Simply put, AAA games have actual video game journalists that can review them. There's general consensus that can tell you how good the game is. You don't need me to weigh in on it. I don't have to tell you that Red Dead Redemption 2 is good. Number 2. Any game that's asking for $5 or less cannot be put into the wait for a sale category, simply because even if it went half off, that's only a $2.50 difference, and who cares? And finally, number 3, any game that's asking for $60 or more cannot be put into the worth more than its price category, because $60 is AAA quality, and I expect a AAA game. Now, with that being said, that out of the way, let's go ahead and begin our review of today's game, Slay the Spire. Slay the Spire is a turn-based, roguelike card game developed by Megacrit Games. It was released on November 15th in 2017 and can currently be found on PC, Mac, and Switch. I'm going to be looking at the PC version today. The buying price of Slay the Spire on Steam is currently $16, which is roughly average for indie games. Slay the Spire is still in early access though, so everything I'm about to talk about is subject to change, so keep that in mind. So let's start off with a plot summary. Obviously, there's going to be spoilers ahead. So yeah, Slay the Spire's plot is actually pretty bare bones, and it's very obviously not the focus of the game. So you can actually play as 3 different characters. There's the Ironclad, who is this super physical, brute-like character that focuses on hitting hard and tanking. There's the Silent, who is essentially a rogue that focuses on combo potentials and poison. And then there's also the Defect, who is a robotic utility character that focuses more on indirect damage and, I guess, utility? Well, either way, you end up getting told by Niao, the goddess of resurrection, this giant whale-looking thing, that you must reach the top of this very massive spire and destroy everything in your way with the ultimate goal of, you guessed it, slaying the spire. However, when you reach the top of the spire, you encounter this massive purple beating heart that you attack with all of your might. But when you do so, it does not complete your mission. Instead, you die, and you get resurrected by Niao and told to do it again. That is, until you reach Act 4 of the game, which you can only get to by beating the game once with every character, then beating it again on Ascension mode, which is the game's harder difficulty, and during said Ascension mode run, you have to gather all 3 keystones, which you do in a series of events that all require some sort of challenge or trade-off. In Act 4, you finally complete your goal of slaying the Spire by destroying its corrupted heart. And that's it. Yeah, like I said, it's a pretty bare-bones plot, and it's very obviously not the focus of the game, so I'm not going to bother giving it too much guff, but yeah, first indie game, and we're up against a very, very simple plot. So now let's move on to gameplay. So, Slay the Spire is a deck-building game. You start every run with a deck of cards, and then you add more cards to your deck as you go along, getting stronger and stronger as you do. Cards can fall into one of 5 different categories. There's attacks, skills, powers, statuses, and curses. So, attack cards are, for attacking your opponent. Big shock. Dealing damage at the very least, but a lot of attack cards also have additional effects ranging from debuffing the enemy to healing yourself to also giving you a little bit of defense. But at the very minimum, attacks almost always deal damage. skills can be several different things, but the skill that you're most often going to see is the defend skill, which gives you block, so that you can lessen damage from an incoming attack from an enemy. But skills can also be things such as like shuffling your discard pile into your deck, drawing additional cards, adding a random attack to your hand, as well as buffing yourself and debuffing enemies. Powers are very similar to skills, but rather than being a you use and then you discard, powers are a permanent effect and are a once per battle use. Powers can range from giving you strength at the start of every turn, to drawing you an extra card every turn, or even dealing damage to your enemies whenever you play a card. They really have a lot of versatility to them. Now, statuses are negative cards that get added to your deck during battles from enemy attacks. Whether it's you being dazed from enemies messing with your mind, or having slime in your deck from a slime, well, sliming on you, but they are removed from your deck at the end of the battle, so there's no need to worry. Curses, on the other hand, are like statuses, but infinitely worse. Not only do curses tend to have much more debilitating negative effects, but they stay in your deck until you remove them, which can only be done in very rare events or by paying a merchant. At the beginning of each turn, you're going to draw 5 cards. You are then given 3 energy to play your cards with at the start of each turn. Cards can be anywhere from 0 cost to infinity cost. It doesn't really matter. You have 3 energy and you replenish your energy at the start of every turn. Once you've finished your turn, you discard all remaining cards in your hand. Once your deck is out of cards, you then shuffle your discard pile back into your deck. Your goal is to kill every enemy you encounter and not get yourself killed in the process. You're going to be able to see your enemies' intents by looking at the icons above their heads, which you'll need to pay attention to strategize your cards around. Enemies can attack, defend, buff, and debuff just like you can, and you're going to need to pay attention to which one it is that they're doing so that you can plan accordingly. At the end of a successful encounter with a normal enemy, you'll be given the option to add a new card to your deck. You'll be given 3 different choices, but you're only allowed to take one of them, so choose carefully. As you collect more cards, you'll want to build a deck that'll help you better deal with stronger enemies, which you're going to encounter more of as you climb higher and higher up the Spire. The beginning of each run starts you off with a choice that's given to you by Niao. She'll offer to give you various benefits such as making your first 3 battles only have 1 hit point, starting with a new rare card, or even increasing your maximum HP. Each encounter moves you up 1 floor of the Spire. Encounters can be everything from enemy fights, elite enemy fights, campfires to rest at, merchant shops, chests that contain valuable relics, or even random events. The Spire has pathways that you can take, each one having a different layout of encounters that changes with every run. Once you climb enough floors, you'll reach that act's boss. Each act has 3 different bosses that you can encounter, each with their own strengths and weaknesses. Once you defeat a boss, you are healed back to full health and moved on to the next act. There are 3 acts total on a normal run. However, once you complete a normal run with all 3 characters, you can get to the 4th act by beating another run on Ascension difficulty after gathering all 3 keystones in said Ascension run. Act 4 only has 1 pathway that includes a campfire, a merchant, a single elite enemy, and 1 boss. Of course, if you get bored of normal and Ascension runs, you also have 2 other options. The Daily Climb is a challenge mode that gives you a set of additional rules in your run. These rules change every day, but beating the daily challenge puts your score up on a leaderboard for the day. Custom runs are like the Daily Climb, but you get to pick and choose which additional rules you want to have. These rules can be everything from starting with an additional relic to more elite enemies spawning to you only having 1 maximum HP. The various rules and rule synergies can create some very chaotic, very challenging, and very fun playthroughs, and they add loads of replay value. This is all well and nice, but how does it feel to play as Slay the Spire? Well, this game is incredibly responsive, and I have very rarely encountered any form of bugs. In fact, come to think of it, I think the only time I've encountered bugs is when I was using mods. The premise is super simple, super easy to understand. It's a very pick up and play game. And if there's anything that you're confused about, you can just simply hover your mouse over whatever icon you don't recognize, and you'll get this small text bubble that'll explain exactly what it does. For those of you who have played Magic the Gathering, it's basically like everything having, like noob text, where it, puts in parentheses exactly what it does for you. The roguelike nature of the game never comes across as too punishing or tedious, and other than bad luck, nothing in the game feels cheap or unfair. The three characters are very different from one another. They're varied enough to allow for runs between them to feel unique, and each character also has enough versatility in their cards to allow for different kinds of builds. In addition to that, you have the relics, which can influence your builds, and so because of that, you have a bunch of replay value from there. The feeling of success you get whenever you beat a tough boss is exhilarating, and even defeat still hands you a chunk of XP, so no run feels pointless or fruitless. You're always doing something, you're always gaining something. The art is fantastic. It gives a very dark but upbeat tone to the adventure. It looks, I think, like water paint almost, like watercolor paint. It's a very unique art style. The music also follows suit. They've got triumphant scores, ominous choirs, even the most mundane of fights feel like a grand duel in this game, and it really adds to it. So much so that they allow you to buy the soundtrack separate. They know. But yeah, Slay the Spire, it looks great, it sounds great, it handles great, it feels great. So now, let's talk about something that you don't hear people talk about too often in game reviews. Mods. While obviously these mods are not part of the original game, they're not official content, and therefore the quality of them is varied, and you need to take that into account whenever you use mods, I feel like they should be taken into consideration when you're estimating a game's value. Let's face it, guys, if it weren't for mods, Skyrim would have been a dead game 6 years ago. Luckily, Slay the Spire has such a simple premise that mods are abundant and usually of very high quality. You can find mods in the form of additional relics, new cards, even new characters. Modding the game is incredibly easy, and it adds a near limitless amount of replay value to the game. I actually personally recommend the Slimebound mod myself. It allows you to play as a slime, and it doesn't feel underpowered, but it also doesn't make it feel like you're playing as an invincible god either. So yeah, with mods being very common for this game, and it looks like they're being made more and more and more recently as the game is picking up a lot of traction, I think that the modding community alone is going to keep this game alive a lot longer than it would if it weren't able to be modded. So, with everything taken into account, what do I think? Well, Slay the Spire is an incredibly easy to pick up game with satisfying gameplay, satisfying rewards, and enough variety to keep you coming back. Replay value is already sky high, and mods only add to that fire, making the quantity of the content near limitless. So, with great replay value and great quality of content for only $16 on Steam, I very firmly give Slay the Spire a score of worth it. It is worth its buying price. If you guys like this kind of game and it looks like something you might enjoy, go pick it up. You're not going to regret it. Go ahead and support Mega Crit Games. The game is still in early access, and I've had this game for a while now. I've had this game since 2017, and they have been very steadily working on it the entire time. They've been putting their heart and soul into this game. There's balance patches, what seems like every single week. They're constantly working on it. They've put a lot of hard work into this game. Go give them some love. Well, that's going to do it for this video. If you guys like what you saw, feel free to give me a like to let me know to do more of these in the future, and if you really like what you saw, you can hit that subscribe button and be updated on every video that I put out. I'm probably going to be doing more of these purely just because I enjoyed this one so much, but if you guys really like them, I'll put priority on these. Today's channel shoutout goes to a channel called Alex Rowe, whose channel link you can find in the description. Alex Rowe is a composer who has made several original albums, he's scored multiple video games, and he has remixed countless songs. He's very well known for his remixes of the Dark Souls soundtracks, and he is absolutely phenomenal. I truly believe that he is one of the great composers of our generation. I think that this man is up there with, like Hans Zimmer. Like, this dude is a genius, and he does all of this without any sort of live band. He does all this on his computer, so go give his stuff a listen and send him some love. He really, really deserves it, and I feel like his channel is way too small for the quality of content he puts out. With that being said, thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next video.